Well, I'm excited to talk about your story today.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about it and I feel like it's hard to tell. And I also never share it with people.
Yeah. You're not an open up right away kind of girly. His story is unexpected, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and I feel like there's so many moving parts to it. So people end up I think I don't want to say passing judgment, but I feel like they're quick to be like, "Oh, this is the path." And I'm like, "No, no, that's one of them." So,
Yeah. But today we're gonna talk about like your path to becoming a chiropractor.
I
Your dad was a chiropractor, so you grew up with it, right? So something very
yeah.
familiar to you.
Yeah, so I grew up with it, but I wasn't like, I'm going to become a chiropractor. Like the office has always been like a second home. The one we practice in is also the one where if I wanted to skip school, I'd ask my dad and he'd be like, yeah, sure, come on. And I'd hang out and play like Mahjong on the computer in the back. So I'd be like, yeah, this is great. Um,
Funny.
but then like initially, because I graduated in 2009 from college, which like, if you know, it was wild times, which is hard to say now because now is wild times. But like
Yeah.
it was like, right after the 2008 crash. And so jobs
It was
and
kind of
hiring,
scary. I,
it was.
Mhm.
And not just that, like I went into college, like I look at my 20s as this like time of figuring things out. Cause when I went to college, I was like, I'm going, I'm going to be a lawyer. Right. And then when I went to
I see
school,
that.
I really did not enjoy all the classes for it, which I think I would have been good at the profession, knowing what I know now. But at the time, it's just like, when you go to the school, there's certain classes and teachers. And I was like, there's a lot of arguing just to argue and no like results.
Hmm.
I'm a very result oriented person. So it just put me in, I was like, okay. So then I did sociology, anthropology, basically, the typical millennial, go after your passion. And
Do whatever
yeah,
you want.
do whatever you want. And I loved it. And I think there's a lot of value in it. Humanity degrees, the
Oh
social
yeah.
degrees. Like, I actually
I
think
have
it
a
teaches,
humanities degree. I have a Bachelor of Arts.
yeah, I think it's important. I actually think like right now, people like never go, those are like, don't get that. I think it gives you people skills and an understanding of the world that you cannot get otherwise, and a sense
Hmm.
of like empathy. So I very much value it, but it wasn't really valued in the world. I
Totally.
was like, you know what? My dad had like an old school practice. There was no Facebook, no social media at all. And there was no marketing. So I was like, you know what? I see there's a spot for me here. Pay me whatever. I'm gonna market. And
This
I
was in 2009.
well, no, I did work a little bit, and then I was like, let me help. And then so it was like probably 2010. It was 2010 is when I
Uh-huh.
started there. So 2010, I was like, I'm gonna help you out. And they were like, my parents were like, okay, what do you know? But I was like, millennial, Facebook, I got this. So I set him up with lectures. I set him up with a Facebook page and all this stuff. And like we started getting traction and this was the early days of this, right? Like other businesses still didn't have it or need it yet. And so we had great success. He had a lot of bookings and new patients that came from it. And I was like, this is really fun. And like I think, when you start like having somebody new come in, it revives the energy. And so he was like
And
rejoining. Yeah,
young.
no,
Yeah.
age, I no spirit matters. I shouldn't even say age
Yeah.
because there's like older people who have this too. Um, and so then he ended up doing a coaching group with Larry Markson. So if you're in the chiropractic world, especially if you're an older chiropractor, I feel like if you're a
You know
Gen,
him.
you know him, right? He's
Yeah.
still around, still doing things. And he was my dad's mentor for on and off for like most of my life. So I've always been aware of Larry. But I was finally old enough where like Larry sends books with this coaching group. So like he would send books out and my dad wouldn't read them, but I started reading them. And so that's actually how I got introduced to like personal growth and like changing like a trajectory of my life is like reading business books and books on like mindset. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I didn't even know this stuff existed. That's how I first started in it. And I then took over like leadership roles. And then I was like, I'll just manage this place. This isn't that hard to do. So I ended up getting in this like management role of the office. And
Like
for,
office manager.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked it, but it was never like long term. It was like, but right now I'm just having fun and getting paid to have fun. And I'll figure it out next for 3 years and I went between that and the farm. And then finally in like 2013, that's when my dad got sick. And
Hmm.
it seemed pretty bad initially. And so we hired this doctor to come in, and he was like probably in his mid 40s at the time with family, and he was covering somewhere else. So he's like, I'll cover for a little bit. I don't think he knew what he was walking into. Because we have a great office, even at any time. I feel like there's a lot to offer at our office, but his first day of work was the day I found out my dad was going to die. So I was like,
Oh.
welcome to Dover Healthcare Center. My dad's dying. So it was his very first introduction. So God bless him for sticking
Sticking it
around
out.
after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's a
And
horrible
he was kind of
situation
a
to be
timid
in.
guy, right?
Very even keel. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say he's just like one of those, like, I'm going to show up and do my job and be, you know, what is good at it. Like he
Good
was good at
worker.
what he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a good worker, but I feel like that was a hard. I mean, I can't imagine now that I know what I know now. Can you imagine walking in your first day of work and someone's like, "Hey, this doctor that's been here for like 40 years, he's dying. So good luck."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I would be like a little shell shocked from that.
How could you not be? But in the moment, like I'm not thinking about that. I was just like, oh my God, like what a world like changing event.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that and I know that all transpired very quickly. So you went from the role of like being office manager with your dad, which was pretty, I mean, I would think a comfortable because it's your dad. Like I know at least with like my parents, like it's pretty easy to be candid with them, so you could probably straight it pretty like
Absolutely.
shoot it pretty straight with him. And I feel like your dad would be the type of person to take it straight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just like, whatever. I'll just say it was comfortable, but also I never had to worry about how the job as a chiropractor was being done because
Right. Because you knew he was a great doc.
that was his skill set. He just wasn't good
Yeah.
at business. You probably would hate
So
that
I'm
I said that,
I'm
but
I'm imagining that the transition from working at the office with your dad to this new doctor, even though he was a good um, guy and a good doctor, was kind of, I would think, difficult to
yeah, I mean,
navigate.
it it was beyond challenging in ways because I didn't know what I didn't know. And so, we were also doing a transition from paper to electronic. There was a lot going on
Oh
at the time.
gosh.
I know 2013 was probably the hardest year of my life. So then like, when my dad got sick, it was 9 days till he died. And that was like a very short period. And something, as it's very easy to reflect on it, but as I've healed, which has taken, if you do go through grief for anyone who's listening, it takes years and it's like phases. It's not as simple as like I go through the process of grief and hit the stages. It's like you grieve and you think you're fine, and then something new comes up and you have this experience and you reflect, and it's just a lot to work through,
Hmm.
especially if you're a child that's not that old. Like I was 26 and he died. And he died. So like it was so quick that you go into this state of I have to survive. And not just that, this office is what carried my whole family and now this new chiropractor's family. And so it's like, okay, it's not about me and my feelings. It's strictly about survival at this time. So what do we have to do? And so I never had an experience of grieving for the first at least year. I went right into like the day after he died, I was at work. Like,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I know I look back and I resent that. Like, I always say, like, now, if anyone, if anyone dies, I hope they don't, I'm taking grieving time. I take these time. But when you're in that moment and you don't know what else to do and you don't have any guidance at all, like it
It
was
feels
just,
very survival mode.
yeah, there isn't anything to do but show up and keep going, because the alternative is it doesn't keep going,
Hmm.
So it was wild, but I also had to learn this really quickly, the world of chiropractic. And I think since then it has changed drastically, but it was in 2013, it was very masculine. And there still parts are, but like I do think there's a huge feminine energy right now in chiropractic. I don't know if you
Yeah,
agree
there's
with that.
a nice, wonderful renaissance of the female in chiropractic now. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, I
it.
love it. And women have always been accepted in chiropractic from the beginning, but it's still a masculine field.
It was still male dominated for
Yeah.
sure.
And so when we're going through this, like this process of before I went to school was a decent amount of time. It was 4 years, yeah, 4 years. And I started by managing with Troy and the team. And the skills I had to learn was no longer just I'm managing a team. I'm now managing a person of authority
Mm.
who in this masculine field, they deem themselves as, and this is not necessarily Troy did this. He was actually very good at being equals. Like he was comfortable with it. But in our field, the movement is definitely like you are less than because you're not a doctor. And so like now that translates where like if we have people come in, even like cover docs, and you don't talk to my front desk as equals, like I'm done. Like they are
Yeah.
as important because I've done both jobs, and your job doesn't work well as a chiropractor if your staff is not just as important, you know?
So many businesses though.
Yeah. Yeah. People look at like these other jobs as less than, but they're keeping everything running so you can be
Hmm.
a doctor.
Yeah.
So like when it came to that, like we would have our supplement person. He was a very old school doctor.
Oh,
He would not
yeah.
speak to me at all. And he'd be like, I will only talk to the doctor. And Troy would walk in and you'd say, hey, I make zero financial decisions. You may talk to her. And he wouldn't. And so, and once I became a
That blows
doctor,
my
he would,
mind.
huh? Yeah. And
That
you know
blows my
him.
mind.
Yeah. You know him. And so, like,
Yeah, I know. I've met him.
yeah. And once I became a doctor, he was like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'll chat with her. She's great. But like
I
prior to
remember him saying like, "Yes, Megan doesn't like me," and I was like, "Why?"
that, why?
But I didn't
Yeah.
know this story.
Yeah. It's strictly, and like, I'm not ever like mean, but I'm very direct with people. And so I would have like, he would come in and he wouldn't talk to me. And you sit in my office and I make the buying power. I have all the buying power and you don't speak to me because I don't have a DC after my name. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
So that was like the first part that was just like learning how to manage. I feel grateful for the people who were in my life at that time. So I could, you know, have the safer space of growing the skills of managing authority because after Troy ended up after 2 years leaving, his mom got
That's not
sick.
that long of a time.
Not that long of a time, felt like forever,
Oh,
because there's well because there's so many skills to learn, right?
right.
Like in that 2 year period I learned how to do report of findings, and not that I was necessarily always doing this with patients, but I had to learn so I could make sure the doctors were doing it. And these are skills of I had to learn everything a doctor did but adjusting, so that I could make sure they're all those systems and procedures for a doctor is in place in our office, which you would never have to do when it came to after from my dad being there. It just wouldn't be necessary because it was his office, right?
Hmm.
So I now had to learn everything that a doctor knew and all those skills, report of findings, systems and procedures of how patient flow works, how do notes work, like everything. And then, excuse me, and then he left. And that's when the chaos really happened. Between him leaving and like you coming on was some of the wildest experiences that like shapes my view of men in chiropractic.
Yeah. I mean, like, so you think that time period was crazier than like your dad getting sick and then like a week later passing and then like having to like
It was a
deal with that.
different kind because I became empowered in those 2 years. Like the first time, like Troy to him leaving, that was a time where I went from survival to empowered. I learned
Okay, I love that.
I've never read so many books in my life in that period of time. And I was going through a lot of personal stuff too, because um like in a 2 month period, my dad died, and then 2 weeks later, my grandfather died, and then I was shortly married. And he was like, "This is not fun," and laughed. So I was like, "Oh my god." So like literally in a month period, I had a crash of everything. And so I threw everything into work and learned because
Honestly,
I
it's amazing that you like still were able to show up because I feel like that would break a lot of people.
well, my theory now in life is very interesting based on that because I'm like, I just, I always say you're never going to get out of life unscathed. Like you are going to have every experience. You will lose a parent. You are going to
Mhm.
lose friends and family, loved ones. You are going to have hard times. You will probably be fired from work at some point. You are going to have lows in your life. And 50% of the people in the world get divorced, and sometimes more than once, you know, and these are really hard, hard, hard things. I just got to have them all happen at the
In a
year
quick
I was
succession.
26. Yeah,
Yeah.
all at once, all at once. I got to have all of this. And so I think like the biggest lesson is like, one, no matter what you're going through, you're going to survive. And you have a choice, right? You have the choice of showing up and being all in on your life, even when it's really hard. Or what was my other option? I lay around and wallow and cry. Like that didn't
Yeah.
seem as that much fun. So
Yeah.
I think if I
Yeah.
was going to do anything, I'm going to be all in. I'm going to show up and like at least work for me because I had nothing else, you know? And so that's where I'm like, that was a big empowerment time because I was like, I'm capable of really just on anything at this point. And I have the authority of any doctor and more knowledge and care about chiropractic than anyone I knew at the time. So I was like, this is an interesting world to be in.
Yeah. That's yeah. Good for you. I mean, I get that's a great lesson to everyone that you can take the bad and turn it into something positive
Yeah.
in the
I mean,
end.
everyone can,
Yeah.
it's just mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we love.
We love,
But
obviously.
so then the Troy leaving and then craziness ensued. And then was something during that time period what was like I need to go to back to school.
Well, I had decided it
When?
probably at this point, I'd already decided I was going to go to school, but I had to make sure the office was okay.
Oh.
So by the time the 2 years, so by 28, I was like, I'm going to go be a chiropractor because I care about this and I believe it and I use it and I live the life about it. The only thing I don't have is the degree. I
Hmm.
have every other skill set already developed, which makes it very weird going back to school when most of the people are like, I don't know what I'm getting into. And I was like,
Yeah.
let me tell
A
you.
lot of people
Yeah.
that go to Chiro school are like, I know nothing.
They're shocked when they get out. And I
Hmm.
wasn't. I was just waiting so that I could implement everything.
Hmm.
But I had already decided, but I had to make sure the office was okay. And that's where the hard part, a different hard came in because then we had to find a replacement for Troy. And Delaware's small. There's not that many like options of chiropractors. And the sexism that ensues is absolutely
One
wild.
caveat of the
It,
story.
it is because we had throughout all of this, like just to touch on some conversations, like I had a person we were interviewing and he goes, I could never work for you. You're paying me more than I'll ever make, but I've ever made before. But like, I can't work for you because I don't believe, and I wish I was lying about this. He's like, I just don't think as two women who aren't chiropractors, you guys are going to make it. Like,
What
okay.
an idiot.
I know. I
Why would
know.
you say that?
I later found out, a little gossip in Delaware, like another doctor had him cover. It's
Hmm.
a friend of ours. And he was like, he was so bad. He like lost him so many patients in like a month of helping out that he got like
Whoa,
let go. Cause yeah. So like, I was like, the
that's
universe
bad.
was taking care of us. Thank God.
Yeah. Like,
you
don't
know,
pick that one.
another person who owns a couple of different practices in the area. Cause my mom's, owner at this time and came in and was like, sat down and was like, hey, you're going to have to sell to me because you're not going to make it. And you guys could never do it. And that was wild. We interviewed one person for the
Your
job.
mom got a lot of flack too. Like it
Oh,
wasn't just you, it was
oh no,
she
yeah.
did as well.
Actually, they were really extra mean to her.
And
Extra mean
like
to her.
the like some of the people like in charge of like the chiropractic,
They called and bullied her,
yeah, in
which is a different
Delaware.
story for a different time. But they literally would call that they called and bullied, and we have like the evidence of it, all of it. And
I forgot about that.
I will hold that against them forever. you know,
There's some wild.
it's not a holding grudge. It's not inside of me, but I will never forget. And those are people I will not work with at all in our field because of those kind of things. I had another person, he came up from the South, this person, and he was like, I'm going to I'll work for you, but I'm in charge. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm fully in charge because I'm the doctor. So I'm in charge of your staff. What I say goes, and like all these rules. And I was like, so you are in charge of our livelihood and everything we offer. And like we have a very successful practice we just need a doctor for. And you don't. And it just didn't make sense.
Mhm.
And then we hired a person for like 2 weeks who he's actually from the South as well. And he came up and he's like, I'm going to, I know we got a lot of doctors from down there. And at the time he was like really struggling. And he's like, I don't like he interviewed. He's like, I don't know about your numbers. Like, how do you have that? Even if you don't really have a doctor, you just have covering doctors. And I was like, our systems and procedures work. I'll teach you all of them. You can even implement them in your practice. And he was like, okay, like no problem. I also have a lot of experience, even though my practice might not be doing great. I'd worked at a practice. I've seen like 250 people a week regularly. And he came in and his first day of work, we were there an hour and a half over our closing for his notes. And he had only seen like 35, 40 people.
Oh
and
my.
he couldn't keep up. And I remember going in, I said, "You told me this is what you could do." And he goes, "I didn't think you were telling me the truth on your numbers."
So then he lied to you
He lied to us about what he was capable of
because he thought you were lying?
because he thought we were lying. And in
Well,
his
that's just
defense,
silly.
not to defend him a lot, like if you do go to seminars, everyone lies about their numbers.
Oh,
You know what I
100%.
mean? Like people are always saying
100%.
shit, and you're just like, that's not
Oh,
true.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see 1,000 a week.
Yeah,
Me
1,000 a
too.
day regularly, you know. It happens all the time. Like there's this ego boost to be like, how many do you see? And sometimes even if you do see a lot, like, why don't you tell me your profits? Okay. Like that's maybe a little bit more impressive than
Yeah.
how many you see. Um, and so so he had lied. And these are all amazing lessons to learn. Cause like I don't lie. So I didn't think like other people, really did not think other people would lie about that. Because
Hmm.
also like it's going to be found out if you don't have a flow and
What
time
is
with
what a
people.
silly thing to lie about.
I know, I know. So he didn't last that long. And then we had another person come in and then she started getting like accusing people of things. Like she was like, "Oh my God, like you're doing my notes." And I'm like, at this point, I'd gone to school actually because I couldn't put it off any longer. And I was in school. Is my first trimester. And she's like, "Are you doing notes?" I was like, I don't touch your notes. I would never touch a doctor's notes. Like also everything's signed, documented, and all, you know how like the computers can they keep track of the programs keep track of everything. Like who's logged
Who
in,
logs
when,
on?
what, all
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. Yeah. So you just can't do that stuff. And why would I? And she accused of that. And then she stopped adjusting and she went look at x-rays because she's like, "I'm liable if I look at x-rays." And I was like, "Oh my God."
How long was she with you guys?
She was only with us for like 6 months.
Okay. Because I remember I started after her.
Yeah. She was with
And
us. Everything was good before we left. And then like I left and like our staff was like, everything you taught me, we're just not going to do them. And so there just wasn't like any implementation of what we had always done. So it just became chaos and this person was chaos. And so by the time you came in, it was wild.
it was a broken team because I remember talking to our coach at the time and him being like, "Why don't you have these systems and procedures?" I was like, "I don't know." And he was like, "Well, you got to start them." And I remember you saying, "We have that. I have it all written down.
All
I've
written
taught them
down.
this."
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I was like, "There's no way," because they're looking at me like I have five heads when I
Yeah.
say this.
Yeah. Well, that was also
But that's
interesting.
another lesson for who you hire and their capacity, and are they good at working without like an eye over them constantly?
Yeah. And I'm very lucky. Like we have now cultivated a team who like it doesn't matter from there or not. But I
Yeah,
was such also a manager that like I didn't really realize that everyone did their job because I was there. Like I never
100%.
why would they? Right. And so like when we talked about that when you were there, which is like our first meeting, we didn't even know each other. And you're like, "There's no systems." I'm like, "Yeah, there are. Why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they doing checkout this way or scheduling this way?" Like it used to work that way.
I think that was kind of was I remember being like when you were saying yes, there is all that stuff, almost like, oh my gosh, Megan's like accusing me of like not doing all this stuff when I had no idea about it. But I think maybe you were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was happening.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't know. I mean, I figured it out, but I was just like, we have these systems. But it also goes back to like, you know, at that time, who was working with us, I don't think they valued what we did and the work we were doing. I think they were there for a paycheck, right? And so,
And to socialize.
yeah, because it was fun. And it is fun to work in these offices, right? Especially if you're a social, outgoing person. I mean, our patients
Mhm.
are amazing. It's a fun, pretty, I
It's
want
a
to say,
fun group. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, like, there's a lot of benefits to it, but like, I just was looking back, I was like, "Oh, I took responsibility for things I shouldn't have," in the sense
Mhm.
of where I went wrong as like a leader was I didn't give the empowerment to figure this out sooner because I was so micromanaging and it seemed to work for everybody because if anyone slacked, I just did it. I picked up all the
Mhm.
slack. And so as a result, if someone's not picking up the slack and you don't have a leader in place to be like, "I'll do it."
Now, so since you had all of those lessons, I feel like those are lessons people learn typically when they're starting in business. Like, you know what I mean? You did it before you really even were like the business owner
Hmm.
at all. So when you got out of school and then went back to your family's practice, do you feel like it was just like so easy, so smooth, and things just like took off?
Yeah, it happened really fast too. Within 3 months of being there, our numbers just like went up and we've been filled to capacity since then. What was interesting about all this, I developed these theories, right? And we did some coaching groups and I've been to these groups and I went to a ton of practices. And if you're in business, no matter what business you're in, you should go to other businesses, like travel and see them because it is amazing when you go and you're like, oh, I hate that. I love that. Oh, we could implement that. This practice is similar to ours. Like I can easily take that in. And so it helps you be better on seeing what not to do and to do because I see a huge value in both. But with all of it, like I developed these theories before going to school, but I never had a chiropractor who would implement it. Right.
Hmm.
Like nobody was going to implement my theories because to all of them, no matter what, no matter how, even the ones that worked with us that were polite, I was still not a chiropractor. And one person told me this, which I think sums up how a lot of them felt is how could you know you're not a chiropractor? And I said,
Mm.
you can't comprehend some of this stuff because you don't have your degree. And I said, I don't have to have a degree to comprehend it because it's all either business stuff or people things. And a business is a business is a business. Chiropractic is not as special as we want it to be. It's an amazing
Well, unless, and it's
modality.
not like you were adjusting people. Like then,
No.
yeah, okay, I don't know if I don't have the degree. But for everything else,
Well, I also can understand how the body works. I can know there's two
yeah,
parts of the nervous system. I
yeah.
know that adjusting, these parts are beneficial. Upper cervical is great. Sacrum's important. Like I was aware of all of that. You don't have to, the complexities of chiropractic have nothing to do with any of that.
Question for you though. I have a question for you. Now that we kind of like went through your whole way to chiropractic story, looking back, do you think you would have, if you could, obviously like the tragedies, who wouldn't want to change that? But like your decisions along the way, was there anything that you would have changed or done differently
Mm.
in hindsight?
It's always tricky in life. If I knew what I know now, what would I have done different? Right. And
Mhm.
everybody would be like, it's very easy, but of course I would do these things different. But for me, my goal was just like I developed skills I like. I really enjoyed, the business side of things and I love chiropractic. And I also saw that I had to save my family in a way, right? So I was like, I'm gonna go. I have the theories. I learned what I had to learn. I came back, implemented, it worked, right? And I was like, okay, thank God my theories are proven true after years of having them. Um, but then you look back, and you're like, the question more is, would I have chosen this? Because it definitely feels chosen for me, because of the circumstances. And I do think I might have always gone to chiropractic school. I don't know if I would have returned to Delaware.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because I like our field a lot. And I think, especially like once early on, like even one, I think the trajectory started when Larry started sending the books to the house. And so, like, that just starts you in the trajectory of like, okay, this is amazing. This is amazing things. I love these topics. I want to learn more. And chiropractic just made sense on how to implement them.
Hmm.
But, maybe I would have, my husband's from Seattle and we came back to my family because my goal's always been to save my family's practice. But like, if I didn't have to save it, would I have came back here? No,
I bet you wouldn't have. Yeah.
I don't think I would have either. I
Yeah.
think we'd actually be in Seattle.
Yeah. I've got another question. So instead of like changing things then from the lessons you learned, what would you never do now?
I so I do think about death a lot.
Oh,
Which I think people
I
always
didn't
think
know
it's
we were going there.
morbid. I know people always think it's morbid, but like I've experienced death at like my grandmother died when I was young, and then and it was always tragic. So I've experienced this, and so I think about it in the terms of like, okay, we're all gonna die, and we literally don't know when. And so I
Hmm.
don't look at it as like, oh no, death. It's more like this is our life. This is our one life we're gonna live. And so, it's impacted all of this experience impacted my things like even choosing a partner. Like I was like, I'm, this time around, I'm going to wait for the right person who fits these values and fits my life and wants to be a part of something big that I want to be a part of.
Hmm.
And, waiting for that was great. But like if I ever have to go through something really hard, I think taking the time to slow down and just pause and be in that moment and those emotions at that time, whatever that looks like, because I know more hard things will come. They always will in life. But I don't want to be forced into survival of now I have to pull through and pull up and handle all this hard stuff. Like I know I'm going to have to do it. I know I can do it.
Hmm.
Um, I think now, given circumstances like that, I would choose to pause and like be with my family, reflect and be in the moment before taking action. So for me, it's slowing down because I go really fast at things. I think somebody else who might be listening, if you're not an action oriented person, you're like, I wait a lot, I don't move a lot towards things, I pause before I go after the stuff I want. I mean, I would say they probably need to do the opposite, right? Like when you learn
Yeah.
these things, you have these skills. It's okay. What have I done? And if in a way, it's like I want to do the opposite to have that experience too.
Hmm. That makes sense. I like that. Lesson you would implement now, which you said would be like slow down, take time with your family, if something ever happened, which I would think is hard for you.
Slowing down.
Yeah.
It's my lesson of this year. I feel like, I
Well, I
went
actually
from,
feel like you're doing a lot better with it.
yeah, it's been really nice. When you go, go, go nonstop, you go enter into a sympathetic fight or flight.
Hmm.
And I actually think a lot of high achieving women enter into this because we operate well from that point of
Hmm.
I'm going, I can do anything, and we can. So the evidence is always there. And every time you achieve something, you get this endorphin in. It's like, yes. And then you feel unfulfilled. So you complete the cycle again. Right. And that's, I got into that cycle, right? Like, I can grow the office to these numbers. And then you hit it and you're like, oh, we could do okay, more. And then well, you do thank it you for again. And you're joining like, us oh, at the yeah, it's table. amazing. I can go to And school. I can do go to this. I can, and you innatewomen.com hit these for our points live events coming and up. You do well, but then you never take time to slow down and be like, who am I now? Especially
Hmm.
if this happens for years. And then you don't really appreciate, family members or friends. I feel like it's very easy to ignore relationships when you get stuck in that cycle of success. And then when you finally do slow down, most people will be like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable because I don't have the community. The thing that I have is success. So that's what I'm going to go after. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us at the table and go to innatewomen.com for our live events coming up.
I love that.